Tonight, an exclusive interview with Stormy Daniels' husband. He's speaking out for the first time since his wife, the woman at the center of Trump's hush money trial, took the stand. Barrett Blade has been by Stormy Daniels' side for 25 years. They knew each other long before Daniels met Trump. The two spent decades as friends and co-workers, making it official as husband and wife 2.5 years ago. And Barrett Blade is out front now. So, Barrett, I really appreciate your time and you're choosing, you and Stormy choosing for you to speak now. I mean, Stormy spent more than 7 hours on the stand. She was there for over 2 days. Obviously, it's the first time she was face to face with Trump since 2007. And, I was in that room. I mean, they're only 10 or 15 feet apart for those hours and hours. How does she feel now that her testimony is behind her?
I mean, I don't think she feels any differently, maybe a little relief to not have to be stressed about going in there. But I I think she feels the same way she always has felt about it.
And on that, this process, it has taken a long time. So when you just talk about the stress of that moment, I mean, the preparation, I mean, the intense preparation, then the waiting and the delays of the trial, then actually having to come testify. I mean, to actually get on a plane and come and do it. How much stress did all that put on her with everything else in her life?
Well, I mean, she just wants to get on with her life, and the fact that it keeps coming back over and over and over, it creates a lot of stress. I think that, to have to relive these moments over, as much as it's boring for the media to keep hearing it over and over again, it sucks for her to have to keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. It wears on her, but she's a warrior, and I think she needed to get her final say so that she can move on with her life.
And you have been by her side, as I said, throughout all of this for so many years. As you know, when she did testify, the defense then tried to tear her apart. It was a purposefully denigrating cross-examination. You could hear it in the voice of the attorney. What was it like for you as Stormy's husband to hear all of that?
I mean, look, I'm used to hearing all the kind of hate. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so. But for her, she's so experienced with it right now. It doesn't bother me as much as she'll tell you, like, Twitter's her favorite sport, so she's kind of used to all of this. I think she was probably more prepared than anything for those type of comments, because that's kind of what she gets all the time from Twitter and from all her social media. So I think that almost helped prepare her. All the negative hate and all the negative comments. But for me personally, I don't really follow. I don't really get on all the social media and all the hate and all the tweets and all that stuff. So for me personally, it doesn't really affect me unless it affects her. If she comes back and something hurts her, then that's when it bothers me.
I mentioned the tone of the defense cross-examination, Barrett, and they did repeatedly try to shame her. And shame her career specifically. Yeah. There was just one exchange. I had written it down when I was in the room, but the Trump's lawyer says, you've acted in porn in 21 sex films, right? And Stormy replies, including compilations. Lawyer says, and you've also written and directed 150 sex films, you said in your direct. Is that correct? And Stormy replies, give or take. And the lawyer says, and so this was your career for over 20 years, writing, acting, and directing sex films, right? Stormy says, yes. And then the lawyer says, Barrett, so you have a lot of experience in making phony stories about sex appear to be real, right? And I'm emphasizing the words here because there was a lot of tone in it. And Stormy stops and says, wow. And then she sort of laughs and she goes, that's not how I would put it. The sex in the films, it's very much real, just like what happened to me in that room. What do you hear there? I mean, the tone of the questions was purposefully denigrating about everything Stormy did, about her life and about her career. What does Stormy think about the way those questions were asked?
I mean, once again, I think, the career that we chose early on, she's been getting that since she started doing porn. She's kind of used to that kind of thing. Yeah. People are trying to slut shame her since day one. And she's proud of what she does. She does not think that sex is a negative thing. Sex shouldn't be looked at as such a forbidden taboo. It's a very American thing to think that way. And as far as the comments, I mean, I think she's dead on. I don't think she's ashamed of all of it. And I agree. I think she's a brilliant writer. So any of any of that stuff that these phony sex stories, she would have written something way better than what she said about the Trump story. So
I mean,
I
she
find
did
that
come
pretty
back
funny.
very quickly there when she said, that's now how, not how I would put it. The sex in the films, it's very much real, just like what happened to me in that
Yeah.
room. I mean, she
Yeah.
didn't take a second to even pause to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a comment afterwards about, that she made up this story just like she writes her stories in her movies, something like that. And she said, no, I would have written it a lot better. And I agree. She's a brilliant writer. She would have wrote it a lot more entertaining and with a lot better person, I would imagine.
She did absolutely say that. So Barrett, when you and Stormy have had a chance to talk about this since she testified, have you discussed what happens when you talk about her trying to get on with her life if Trump is found not guilty?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If Trump is found not guilty, I think I mean, either way, I don't think it gets better for her. I think if it's not guilty, we got to decide what to do. Good chance we'll probably vacate this country. If he is found guilty, that she's still gonna have to deal with all the hate that feel like she's the reason that he's guilty from all of his followers. So I don't see it as a win situation either way. I know that we would like to get on with our lives. I know that she wants to move past this. We just want to do what I guess you would say normal people get to do in some aspects. But I don't know if that ever will be, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, some of the things that she has to go through that people don't realize. I guess, for example, everybody has their agenda for her at this point, and I don't see people fighting back for her. For instance, E. Jean Carroll, although we're super happy that everything that happened for her happened, Stormy opened the door, but Stormy got sued for the exact same 2 comments, and she ended up getting legal fees she's got to pay for, but no one wants to help her with that. Or the women's groups, she fights for women's groups all day long. And I don't see anyone doing GoFundMe's to try to help with her legal fees and to help her out. And Michael Avenatti, he did a GoFundMe to try to help her, and then he ended up stealing all her money. There's a list that goes on and on and on and on. And she donated to the hurricane relief in Louisiana. She does all these great things, and no one comes back and helps her out. So that's the biggest heartbreak, I think, out of everything that's going on right now, is that she's fighting for everybody and no one's fighting for her. And that's what makes me the most upset about all of this situation.
When you talk about wanting to get on with your life and that, if he's found not guilty, that you may be forced to leave the country. I mean, just the disruption to your entire life together and to her life. I just wanted to show some of the pictures that you shared of her and you, because you have known each other for 25 years, and obviously you're married now. She shared one of us with us of you teaching her daughter how to put in contact lenses, and a moment from your honeymoon where you're dancing to your wedding song, right? Something that almost everybody does. And you filmed her on your honeymoon as well. I'm just going to play a brief clip from that, Barrett.
Mm-hmm. Enjoying your honeymoon?
I am.
What have we done today?
Today?
What have we done
Nothing.
I mean, Barrett, when you play that, it just, if people didn't know who she was, right? If they didn't know her as Stormy Daniels, it's just the normal side of life that most people know, but certainly they haven't seen her in that context before. So in this context, when you talk about people not knowing her, what do you want people to really know about who she is, and what the biggest misperception is out there that people still have of her?
I mean, I want people to know that she's a brilliant mother. She's a great partner. She's very talented. She's a brilliant writer, director. I mean, the list goes on and on. What people don't know, I think everyone thinks this is that like Democrats are funding this whole thing or some crazy stuff like that. But she's doing all of this because she's doing what she feels is right for this country and for the people in this country and for the future of her daughter. And I think most people think that she's doing this for money. She ain't rich. We ain't rich. We don't have millions of dollars. We don't. In fact, even to do the case, she had to come out of her own pocket to fly up there, get a hotel, her own food. Now I'm sure they'll reimburse her at some point, but no one's fronting the bills for any of this stuff. This is all her fighting for what she believes is right and telling the truth. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I think there's a lot that believe what the media feeds them, and they believe the lies, and nobody fact checks anymore. Everyone hides behind their digital wall and believes what they're told. And it's a scary state in our country right now. It's very, very scary.
Barrett, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for sharing all this.
Yeah, no problem.